All right, well, nobody in the waiting room. I think I'll just jump in. Hey, everybody, welcome to this breakout session. My name is Shawn Jansepar, and I am the Director of Engineering for a couple of folks. I'm the Director of Engineering at Khan Academy for our learning and AI platform. Been at Khan Academy for over 6 years now, and I've also been not only kind of leading a lot of the engineering on the Khanmigo side, but I've also been playing an active product management role, so dual product and engineering. I'm excited to kind of just dive in and show you what we've been doing with scaling Khanmigo in classrooms. And so well, I'll dive in with some slides and then provide some context. So for the folks who don't know, I think most people do know Khan Academy, but just a bit of context. Our mission is to provide a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. Khan Academy has 140 million registered users, 7 billion learning minutes alone in 2021 to 2022, 11 million monthly learners in over 190 countries and 50 languages. And we have about 1.5 million monthly very active learners, meaning they use Khan Academy for over 2 hours per month. And we're also particularly committed to serving those who've been historically underserved by our education system. So, for instance, we specifically will try within our district partnership. So Khan Academy is free for all students and teachers to sign up, but we do work directly with school districts to provide extra functionality like rostering and dashboards for district administrators, and we do charge for that. But we specifically try to work with districts that have disproportionately higher free and reduced lunch. And we'll also work with those districts to give them cheaper rates, et cetera, just to kind of get that into more hands of students. I think many of you know, since the pandemic, academic outcomes have been worse than ever. This little graphic here just to show, this notion of maybe at the third grade, students are still largely grade level proficient. But over time, these gaps start forming in students' knowledge. And by the time they get to 8th grade, the average student is 1.1 grade levels behind. And we are hoping, anyways, to leverage AI to help successfully fill those unfinished learning gaps at scale. And I'll preface that with, in a way that is not in any way intended to replace teachers. We don't view AI as a technology that will replace teachers. Our hope is that we can take away a lot of the work that teachers have to do that is very not personalized, not as human, not as interacting with students in the classroom, but how can we take away some of those things in order to make the classroom more engaging, allow teachers to spend more time, with students where they're deeply struggling, get to know them better, do experiments in the classroom, et cetera. So we kind of view it as the opportunity laying before us is to try to get closer, not that we'll ever perfect, but get closer to the results of Benjamin Bloom's 2 Sigma problem study, which concluded that the average tutored student was above 98% of the students in the control class. And when we're hoping to use AI to democratize one-on-one tutoring at scale. So that's where Khanmigo comes in. Khanmigo is a tutor for learners and an assistant for teachers. So just talk a little bit about the student side for a second and the tutoring side. What we know, and these are just slides I've actually taken from our Chief Learning Officer, Kristen DeCerbo. We know students learn more when they're working on material that's just at the edge of what they can do when provided a little support. They learn more when they see value in what they're learning. They learn more when they're actively engaged with the material they're about to learn. And they learn more when they get immediate feedback on the responses to new material being learned. And unfortunately, this can be really challenging, as we all know, in a classroom where there's 30 students to one teacher. So just a couple examples of how Khanmigo works. So playing this video, Khanmigo will pop up if you can get help whenever you want on a particular problem, highlighting there that this conversation is recorded and viewable by your teacher. And so anything you talk to, let's pause it for a second, anything that the student types to Khanmigo, every thread is being recorded, and we have moderation on every thread. So if there's anything in the conversation that's inappropriate or unsafe, that's actually flagged for teachers, and they'll get an email and be alerted about that so that they can have a look at the conversation, chat with the student, etc. So we've really kind of prioritized safety and transparency, particularly with teachers, parents, and district administrators. So continuing to play this, this is, the student earlier, oops, skip ahead a little bit. So the student says, hey, tell me the answer. And Khanmigo says, hey, as your friendly AI tutor, I'm here to help you learn, not just give you the answer. And it says, well, what do you think the first step of this problem should be? And so the student might go in and, give a next step and say, hey, I noticed that you tried to simplify the equation, but the student did some math wrong there. And so it's saying, like, I'm curious how you got to that next step. Can you explain your thought process? And so rather than just immediately jumping in to tell to the students they're wrong and demoralizing them, it's really about like, hey, can you just show me that next step? And then that way, Khanmigo has an opportunity to understand, well, why did you, maybe distribute that that way, etc. Next slide. So another one is it's important that students see value in what they're learning. So this is just an example of a student asking, well, why should I learn this biology concept? And Khanmigo will actually ask, hey, well, what do you care about? How can I help that? How can I help relate this to what you care about? And in this case, a student might say, well, I want to be a professional athlete. And it says, well, understanding the science of sizes can help you appreciate how your body works at a cellular level. And so that can be really motivating if you try to relate these concepts to what the student might care about. And when we built Khanmigo initially and we were prototyping it and sharing it with students, the action bubble that's there by default that allows a student to ask, why should I care about learning this, was one of the most popular ones clicked. So it's cool to be able to present students with that. Designing for accessibility in mind is key for us. So we know that tools like heavily text-based solutions are challenged, especially for younger learners. And so we really wanted, especially for those also who have reading comprehension challenges. So we've kind of built some functionality. I'll just play this. Hopefully you can hear it.
Sure thing. Let's start. Do you know what each place in a number means?
So we actually now have the ability to kind of speak these things out loud, and we're actually highlighting sentences as you go. Students can replay those messages. We're really hoping that this can be a big win from an accessibility standpoint. And we've done extra work. One of the things that's a really big challenge when it comes to text to speech is sounding out math equations correctly, and that's something we spent a lot of time getting right, and is now in there. We also spent a lot of time thinking about considerations like, should we offer a diverse set of voices? The answer is yes. That's what we've shipped. Accents, how do we think about that? So our user research team did a lot of work investigating this. And should we include voices for historical figures? And we actually decided not to, just because we didn't want certain voice, like any voice, to be overlaid on top of any historical character.
Sure.
Multi-language. So one of the things we believe is really important is that, especially for historically under-resourced schools and students, that they might be able to get tutored in the language of their choice. Maybe they're in a classroom and it's an English-based classroom and the content that they're working on is in English, but we wanted them to be able to still talk to Khanmigo in their language of choice to get help. So in this case, I might say, well, can you help me solve this in Spanish? Or if you actually just ask the question in Spanish, Khanmigo will respond in Spanish. But you can actually go to preferences in Khanmigo and change your default language. Right now, we're just supporting Spanish and Portuguese because that's what we've heavily tested. And those are languages that the AI that we use, GPT-4, does a better job with. But you can kind of set your default. And now going forward, Khanmigo will actually only speak to you in Spanish, and all the bubbles and all the prompts in the beginning, they'll all be in your language of choice. And we're hoping to add more languages over time. There's a lot of tutor capabilities. I'll actually have a few more demos of them, but we're going beyond just the traditional, like, getting help on a particular problem that you're working on. We have a lot of fun things like crafting story together. You can summarize videos, you can get career coaching, chat with a literary or historical character. You can get help with coding. You can refresh your knowledge, adding a few more folks being asked to join. navigating college admissions and financial aid, brainstorming admissions essays, etc. Debating is a really fun one, debating different topics for different levels. And we're also looking to kind of go beyond that just basic traditional chat interface. One of the things that we're really excited about is we're building a tool to help students with writing essays. So I think, you all know when it comes to writing essays, one of the biggest challenges for students is they write their essay, they submit it to you, the teacher, and you're spending a lot of time grading and marking these, putting in a huge amount of effort because teachers love their students, but they get their essays a week later and they've kind of lost the context of what they were writing. How much will students spend the time to address those issues? And so one of our thoughts is, with AI being really great at language, how can we really shorten the feedback loops of writing that essay? So maybe the expectation is that you can't submit anything less than a B essay because that students is going to get immediate feedback from the AI as they're crafting it. The other thing we know is that folks are worried, rightfully so, about essay cheating. What if ChatGPT just generates an essay for you and then they submit it? The tool that we're building is something where you actually will be collaboratively writing an essay with the AI. And so you'll actually be able to know if they wrote the essay because you can see whether or not there was a sufficient back and forth transcript with the AI as they're collaborating on, writing the intro, then writing the next paragraph, then writing the conclusion. So I can show a bit of a demo of that. This doesn't have the full flow of starting from scratch, but we are building that.
Academic essay feedback. This new feature provides immediate, high-quality feedback on essays to help students become more.
Can folks hear the audio? I just want to confirm. If someone could type in the chat.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. I'll go back a little bit.
The new feature provides immediate, high-quality feedback on essays to help students become more skilled and confident writers. Let me show you how it works. To get started, all a student needs to do is submit their essay draft along with some details about the assignment. Click Submit, and then Khanmigo gets to work generating both positive and constructive feedback at the student's grade level. You can see that unlike other writing tools, Khanmigo provides more than just spelling or mechanics feedback. It offers insights into everything from essay structure and organization to how well arguments are supported, even down to style and tone. Students can view the feedback, ask for clarifications or examples, make revisions, and then request more reviews. It's like having a personal writing coach at their fingertips. Teachers who found themselves struggling to regularly provide timely, personalized feedback on hundreds of essays can now ensure that their students get immediate, quality feedback on their first drafts without Khanmigo ever doing the writing for them. And like all other Khanmigo activities, the student experience is moderated for safety, and teachers can view a record of the students' interactions, including initial and revised drafts, in their chat history.
So it's a little demo. Again, we're expanding this feature to be more of a guided experience as you kind of construct the essay. This was just a place where you can kind of paste in an essay and iterate on it. And then Nick asks, does this work with an externally provided rubric? So let me just share. I think this was
Academic
as part of this, you can kind of paste in the essay instructions and that'll act as a rubric of such because that context is passed to the AI. So now the AI knows how to base the feedback to the learner. But we are planning on making a bit more of a formally structured way of inputting a rubric beyond just a text interface. This is just another slide just to kind of demonstrate how we can leverage the same technology for other subjects. So this essay feedback tool we're building, we're hoping in the future, we're not currently building this. This is just a design mock-up to leverage the same thing for coding. So you can imagine this is actually, this way of giving feedback on an essay is pretty natural to how you might construct a computer program. And so we're really excited to bring this functionality to more subjects. See a question, another one. For subsequent years, could we use past model student essays to inform feedback for a specific prompt? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't think we're planning on building that in, but that's something I can pass along. And so I talked a lot about this, the student functionality. I could demo that forever, so I'm not going to spend the entire time talking about that. But I also wanted to make sure I covered some of the teacher functionality as well as the student functionality, because Khanmigo is really here not just to provide a tutor for students, but we also want it to be an assistant for educators. So a couple screenshots here, but I'll go into to demos. One is the ability to generate lesson plans collaboratively with Khanmigo. Another one is to generate a rubric collaboratively with Khanmigo. And another one is getting a class snapshot to just kind of see what is the level of all my different students across maybe a unit you've assigned to them. And then, Khan Academy can generate recommendations automatically. So we're trying to really help with that student differentiation, which can be really challenging at scale if you have many students. So hopefully we can kind of automate some of that for the teacher. They'll still be in the loop where they see the recommendations, but then they can click a button that just says, okay, yes, I feel good about these. Assign this to all of my students. I'll show a demo of that. So this is an example of our lesson planning functionality. So you can go into any piece of content on Khan Academy, and it's grounded based on the content that's available on that page. So Khanmigo has a reference to that. And you can generate a lesson plan and kind of go in and start, asking it to fill in an objective for you and start writing that out. And you can go in and ask for modifications of those different sections. This is actually a bit of an older demo. So now we have more advanced functionality where you can highlight and make a number of different changes based on how you want to tweak things. We're also building functionality for taking these lesson planning tools and making them work on any website, not just Khan Academy. So Khan Academy being more of a general education co-pilot as opposed to just a tool that exists on khanacademy.org. So this is an example of where a teacher can use Khanmigo to help write a lesson plan based on the contents of the evolution Wikipedia page. Another one is student recommendations. So this is an example where a teacher could say, what should my classroom work on? And so Khanmigo, using the richness of the data we have based on the conversations, as well as just like where students are at in terms of familiar, proficient, or mastered on any particular skill within our system, it'll have a bunch of recommendations about what each of those students should work on. And again, this demo is a little bit out of date as well, because the new functionality is at the very end of this output, there'll be a button that says, assign these recommendations to my students, which will then pop up a modal that just kind of shows what all of those things will be. And then you can tweak them and then just press go. And now suddenly, these assignments are all automatically part of your students' list of assignments. Another one that we're building is a focused AI teacher toolkit. So this isn't just, functionality that is beneficial within the classroom setting. I showed the lesson planning a little bit already, but we're building a number of different activities for a teacher, things like creating a lesson hook, writing exit tickets, writing learning objectives, writing a recommendation letter, writing a classroom letter, writing a fun classroom poem, etc. So we just want to give these kind of tailored, hyper-focused activities out as tools for teachers to leverage. We're also planning on adding, and this actually is going to be coming out, it might even be out as of now, but if not very, very soon, the ability for teachers to assign Khanmigo activities. So you could imagine that you might want a student to chat with Khanmigo about ancient Rome, and you pass kind of criteria for what they should talk about. A student would have that conversation about ancient Rome with Khanmigo, and then they can press submit when they're ready to submit that conversation to a teacher. In the future, we actually want those criteria to be something that, it will say you can't submit this assignment until you've passed the rubric or criteria. That's just not part of V1, but that will be part of V2. So those are just some of the features. Now let's just talk about some early pilot results. So as I mentioned earlier, we really think about year one of this product. We launched Khanmigo on March 14th, along the launch of OpenAI's GPT-4 launch. So that was, March 14th. Because that means Khanmigo is just kind of, its 1 year anniversary is coming up, which we're really excited about. So I'll share with you some early pilot results where we've been working with both a number of over 20 school districts across America. And right now we're still US focused, as well as selling Khanmigo to grassroots learners around the world. So people who aren't using it in a formal classroom setting, but they want to use it for study help and what have you. So currently we have about 100,000 enrolled users using Khanmigo. About 50% of those are users in districts. I forgot to break this down by teacher or student, but I actually think it's roughly 30% of them and 20% of, 60% of those district users are learners and 40% are teachers, similar to our grassroots learners and teachers breakdown. So yeah, really half are district users, half are grassroots users. In terms of where students seem to be spending most of their time and are really interested in using Khanmigo, even though we kind of land you on this like page that we call the activities page, which we really kind of just right now consider almost like the demo play area to try different things that we've built, where students tend to spend most of their time is either getting tutored directly in the exercises that they're working on. So if a teacher has assignments or gives them a link to say, hey, work on this exercise, then a huge portion of their time is spent on getting tutored on exercises directly. And then the other one is we have an activity called Tutor Me in Math and Science, where you can get tutored on any subject, really. And that's something where you can paste in any question and get tutoring on it. Oh, and something I forgot to mention, would be great for me to add future slides in other conferences, but we've also built kind of anti-cheating functionality. So for instance, if you're, we actually don't allow you to use Khanmigo when you're doing a unit test, a course challenge, or a mastery challenge. Those are kind of more assessments. And when an assessment is open, we won't actually allow you to use Khanmigo on any other page. So it'll detect that that you're running inside of an assessment, and Khanmigo will be disabled everywhere else on the website, even if you open it in a new tab. Nick asks, can you expand on the Tutor Me feature? Yeah, so Tutor Me, I mean, maybe I can even just share my screen really quickly on that. But really, it's just kind of an open place where students can get help on any math or science problem. But in this area in particular, we've done advanced prompting where we're doing special things to make sure that the math is even more accurate. So from a technical standpoint, there's a concept where you actually, instead of just asking the AI directly to respond with some help, first we send that response to the AI, and then we have these prompts around asking the AI to kind of think about the problem out loud. So it will think about like, what is the right next step? What did the student do and why did they land on what they landed on? And then we'll feed that to the AI again and say, hey, based on this information, based on these kind of thoughts that you had, now make some tutoring suggestions to a student. And then that really increases the accuracy of the LLM doing a good job at assessing math or science or what have you. And we also do the same thing in our exercise pages, but those are kind of the two places where we're doing more advanced tutoring in kind of the background. So those are kind of the two most popular. And another one that is quite popular, that's more of our fun activities, is chat with historical figures. So after the more, the practice ones that seem to be the most popular, chat with historical figure is also is the next one that's the most popular. For teachers, they tend to spend a good amount of their time actually just chatting generally with GPT-4. We have that as a general place because we figured, well, if teachers are going to be able to use Khan Academy features in their districts, why not just give them direct access to GPT-4? Because we can't predict exactly how they might want to use GPT-4 in the classroom. And then that way they don't have to buy ChatGPT separately if they want GPT-4, because we'll add one person wants to be added. Because ChatGPT, the free version, only offers GPT 3.5, which is far less good at reasoning. And so we want students to have access to GPT-4. So that one's pretty popular. But beyond that, the next kind of two most popular ones would be writing lesson plans. So that's quite popular with teachers, as well as also just the tutor me in math and science activities. So there's likely a lot of teachers who are just wanting to get a refresher on a concept before diving in with their students. This is just the sentiment from students and teachers in Khanmigo chat. So you have the ability to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down on any message. And so about 71% of those are positive. And our UXR team does a really amazing job at reviewing all the positive and negative feedback. And that's fed into our product roadmap as we're iterating on those. So that's my job as a kind of dual product manager and engineering leader, is I'm responsible for prioritizing all the different feedback that we're getting and making sure we're tackling the most important things. And again, I just want to reiterate, given that this is a pilot year, we really want to learn before expanding this to a larger audience. Some other just notes, we even though we're working with over 20 districts, we are kind of doing in-depth partnerships with certain districts, and we're trying to get kind of a diversity of who we partner with. So, diversity of grades. One is, district is more using it in 9 to 12. Another one is grades 5 to 8. Another is all the way from 3 up to 12. 75% of them are historically under-resourced districts and across a variety of locations. And our UXR team will fly to these different districts and talk to a number of different students and teachers and district administrators. So we've done, as of February 2024, we've conducted 87 in-depth interviews and done 29 classroom observations. One thing that was really cool that we've developed is based on this, that the user experience research team put together, was this notion of a Khanmigo hierarchy of needs. And so how can we make sure that we have a way of thinking about how to prioritize our work? And so, there was 3 areas that we identified that we were having challenges with in the classroom. One was just performance. And so we actually had just some general performance challenges, and you'd think that was just the slowness of AI, but we found out that we were having just issues with our website. And so because we realized that those issues existed, we were able to address them really, really quickly. And so we did that. Another one is awareness. So even though Khanmigo is always available on the bottom right of any piece of content on Khan Academy, not all students realize that they could go and get help from Khanmigo. And some of them would even think that they couldn't, that, using Khanmigo was cheating. And so we started prioritizing a bunch of work to incentivize users to use Khanmigo. So it'll actually, if you're sitting there for a while thinking, or if you're typing an answer, but you haven't pressed submit for a little while, Khanmigo might pop up and say like, hey, are you stuck? I can help you. Or if you get the question wrong, one thing that we're interested in doing is offering the student, hey, if you get tutored with Khanmigo, we will actually give you a second try and not have to kind of, restart the whole exercise. So one of the painful things for students is, if you're on question 6, maybe you've gotten 5 out of 6 right so far, you're working on question 6, you get it wrong, most students want to get 7 out of 7, so they'll restart the exercise. But we're offering them, hey, if you get tutored with Khanmigo, we will let you try again, get another question so you don't have to start over. So things like that, incentivization to increase awareness of Khanmigo is something that we're working on. Another one is accuracy. So, we're very transparent when we roll out Khanmigo to districts that it is still getting math incorrect sometimes. LLMs getting math perfectly right in the world of AI is an unsolved problem. And it's something that we are, I think, really kind of trailblazers on when it comes to getting tutoring accuracy as high as possible. And so we are working with partners, Microsoft, OpenAI, et cetera, to continue to iterate and improve on this. But as we're getting feedback, we're seeing different ways students are interacting with the systems that we weren't able to predict when we launched. And so we've kind of collected a bunch of ways students are interacting with Khanmigo. We fixed 65% of those cases that we had never, encountered, and we've identified, and we're working on shipping even more changes that'll get us up to addressing 85% of those cases. So we're feeling really good about, this pilot and learning and being able to iterate and fix a lot of these issues. Yeah, these are just screenshots of ideas for how we're thinking about making users more aware of Khanmigo. I forgot I had the slide, but Khanmigo might have a little pop up with animations where these pop in and say, help me check my answer, give me a hint, etc. Or, when we want to offer you to get a free second try, if you got this question wrong, that's why it's red here. We might offer this little gift, and the gift is a free try if you want to take it. And then our efficacy team, we have a big research and efficacy team who does analysis of the, how well is Khanmigo actually helping with learning? Because at the end of the day, what we really care about is learning outcomes. And so they're doing a lot of analysis there. One of the things that they've been looking at is seeing whether or not Khanmigo is, the behavior of Khanmigo aligns to our pedagogical expectations. So, is it specifying goal statements? Is it doing procedural prompting? Is it doing course correcting when necessary, et cetera? And so we're noticing that there's a bunch of there's a high rate of desirable tutor behaviors in a lot of these threads. So Khanmigo will start with a goal statement. It often ends in a summary of key next steps if the learner managed to chat to completion on a problem. The majority of threads involving procedural prompting, a majority of the threads do involve procedural prompting and course correcting. So that's all really great. But there's some issues and non-desirable behaviors that we're seeing as well. Things like a lot of students not spending the time to type a full response, but it's just responses like no, I don't know, never mind. And sometimes Khanmigo will be doing repetitive responses across the interactions, and we really want to limit those repetitive responses. And so, to tackle that, one thing that we're doing is introducing action bubbles after the AI will give you a response, rather than expecting the user to respond well. We will have suggested action bubbles, like maybe the student should respond with, can you show me a step-by-step process to solve this problem? Or can you explain what this concept means? Or can you give me a similar example to this so that I can learn and apply it in this scenario? These are things that we're wanting to try and see how that goes. And what we're hoping is that this will help kind of build metacognitive skills for the learners. It'll really help them even learn what good questions might even be when working through a problem. So this is just a quick video of a classroom visit that we've done. So let's play that.
I'm in Miss Drakeford's third grade class. Today we're having fun with Khanmigo, and we're talking to her class about how much they love using it. Let's talk to them, shall we?
Yes, let's do this. Let's go.
Miss Drakeford's class was so much fun. Students in this class were opening up their imaginations, writing stories, learning about history, and they learned about America's first president.
What did they tell you about George Washington?
Another lesson they learned is Khanmigo's here to help, but it's not going to give you the answer.
No, it just helped me out with it. It didn't give me the answer, but it helped me out get the answer. It helps me write like stories, and it's so amazing.
Now we're in Miss Barreros' fifth grade class, and everybody here is saying hi to Khanmigo. In Miss Barreros' fifth grade class and Mr. Rodriguez's sixth grade class, one thing was for sure: Khanmigo was here to help with personalized learning and adaptive feedback.
I feel like it's like a tutor. It's like a little person sitting next to you, like telling you how to do the problem.
It helps you figure out certain things that you wouldn't understand, but then he is like a teacher right beside you.
I absolutely love Khan Academy for moving into this space. AI is our future, and I can't wait to see how Khan Academy soars in the AI space in education.
I'm in Miss
All right, and that's pretty much the end of my slides. So just my last statement here is, let's consider how artificial intelligence can help us enhance human intelligence and human potential. Thank you very much. Happy to, I think, open up the floor, have conversations, answer questions, etc. I'll leave this open. I think there was an ask to make sure this QR code is available for people.
Thanks, Shawn. This is Ryan. I'm just wondering, I unfortunately was popping around, so if I'm covering already charted territory here, no problem. Just curious, like high level, if you step back from the problem and you know, the day-to-day elements of code and sprints and all the things, like where would you say that Khanmigo is on its journey, and what do you see in the next year, of not only what you guys have in the roadmap, but like how the world is gonna, how are you seeing or expecting the world to change, and how are you trying to shape Khanmigo to be where the world's going to be in the year to come?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of my beliefs is that, you know, I don't know, in 5 to 10 years, pretty much every student in the world will have access to a personal tutor. I think that the technology is expanding at a rate, and prices are coming down at a rate such that, um, I don't think the digital divide that we've seen in the past, where, you know, students who had access to the internet and tools like Khan Academy for watching videos and content, you know, so many students had access to that, but then so many students didn't, because they didn't have internet, um, they didn't have computing devices, etc. You know, I think a lot, you know, we're in a world now where a lot more people have access to the internet and computing, and so, you know, I think this is something we're going to be able to deliver these to many students really, really quickly. And then I think in terms of like, well, how is it going to adapt to the world? My expectation, or my guess, if I was to, you know, see where the puck is heading, is that students will have access to these tools in the classroom, outside of classroom, to help them with their homework, to help them with their essays, etc. And it's really just a kind of a question of, I think for a lot of, you know, not just Khan Academy, but many other organizations who are building tools, leveraging AI for education, is how closely are you working with, you know, educators, students, to understand their needs and to really iterate towards making these tools as useful for them as possible. We can't, you know, we can't just pie in the sky, come up with ideas. That's why for us it's been so important to do a pilot and work really closely and get this feedback as fast as possible and integrated. So I think it's hard to say exactly what will these tools look like in 5 years, but I do think that they're generally going to be quite helpful for most folks, and I think they'll be broadly available.
Yeah, thanks for oh, sorry, two devices. I agree. I think every student having a tutor seems very much within the realm of possibility, and I actually see Khan Academy, Khanmigo being one of, like, you know, maybe the essential tool down the line. So I'm bullish on what you guys have built. I'm curious, what's something that surprised you through this process, that whether for better or for worse, you know, as you've been on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's one that just comes to mind is the minor one, but just some of the performance challenges we were having, like noticing them. I wish we had noticed them a little bit earlier, actually, but we've addressed them, so I'm happy about that. I'm trying to think about other surprises. I mean,
That's like student performance?
No, sorry, like web performance. Just
Oh.
you're actually having with like certain older Chromebooks crashing tabs, just because we were like taxing the CPU so much for some silly reasons. So I'm glad we've addressed that. But I mean, I would almost actually say I'm surprised how well students have taken to the tools, and how much they find them useful. But then at the same time, like, there's definitely a segment of students who really find it helpful, and that's not just the students who are like really good at math already or really good at their subjects. I think it's a variety of students, you know, find it useful, but also maybe been a bit surprised at, you know, not surprised. I think I should have predicted this, but you know, how few students are like realizing Khanmigo is there, and it's not a tool that if you use it, you're going to get punished to use it. And so I think we just need to we didn't put enough energy, I think, up until now into onboarding and discoverability, and that's an area where we really are trying to double down now. So that was a bit of a, you know, a lesson learned.
Yeah, the stat I had, this is 6 months old now, but from last summer, was that 60% of students felt that using AI was cheating, right? Which is interesting I'm sure it's part and parcel of what you guys are dealing with, is that it's like, is that okay? And I think there's like a uh, uh, public service announcement sort of thing that needs to be out there. It's like, it's not all bad, but also you got to be careful. There's
Yeah.
we got to stay between the two boundary marks here.
Yeah. And on top of that too, I mean, I think the key thing for us is that these tools are out there, and not only is Chat GPT, using GPT 3.5 available, students are using it heavily, but it's a general tool, right? So it doesn't have those like, hey, I notice you're a student, so I'm going to be more of a Socratic tutor here. It's just going to give you the answer. So it's not a question of like, it really, at the end of the day, students are using AI, I think, no matter what. So the question is it valuable for people like Khan Academy to leverage AI in a way where you're kind of really honing it to be aligned to educational outcomes and tailored to those experiences? And I think what we're doing with things like the essay writing tool or math tutoring, they are better versions of what is generally available on the general tools. And those general tools are also going to be more generally available. So at the end of the day, you do have Chat GPT, which anyone can use and is quite popular, but these things are going to be baked into, most places. It's going to be baked into Google directly, et cetera. And we just want to make sure that we're leveraging the technology to be best aligned to outcomes. And I think one thing in particular I think that makes that great for Khan Academy is, or great that Khan Academy is in the space too, is that we are a nonprofit and our goals are not to, make a ton of money. Our goal, we need to make money to operate, but our goal is not massive profits. Our goals are really aligned around student outcomes. And that's what everybody, donors, people on our board, everyone kind of pushes us to be really focused on. So I think that's something that people can kind of trust by using tools from Khan Academy.
To your point about your product being better than what's generally available, something I've thought about in the space is like, will there be, or why isn't there already just an education focused LLM that's trained on a widely agreed upon facts, that's trained on school standards, maybe Common Core, maybe per state, classic literature, 200 years worth of, or 300 or 400 years worth of like printed news, and that you guys and other education focused products would tap into. Do you see that happening, or no chance?
I do see it happening. My guess from a while ago was that the solution in the future was not to talk to a really generalized AI that is quite expensive, has billions and billions of parameters, but rather hyper-tuned models where we are responsible for kind of routing based on what the student asks to the right model. That's hyper optimized for certain use cases. We are already talking to different partners who are, looking into building models that are doing exactly that. But also at the same time, the models do need to have a generally strong enough ability to do reasoning and follow instructions from prompts. So we're still, I think, in a world where GPT-4 right now, anyways, is the only model that has met our needs for, at least for the more advanced cases around tutoring. But we do expect that over time to likely change, but we'll see where things take us. Ultimately, we're just the most interested in using the models that best align to learning and teaching outcomes.
Yeah. Love it.
I know there's a few.
Yeah, hit them. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I'll check those out. So Nick asks, as a follow-up to Ryan's original questions, you all talk about student transitions as they enter into higher ed, i.e. students have relied on these open tutors and move to a model where a higher degree of self advocacy is required. Yeah, I mean, we have, Khanmigo is available in the classroom, and we're really focused right now on the students who are mostly, mainly middle school, high school. But we also have grassroots learners using Khan Academy. An example of actually something we talked about is, for an adult learner or somebody in higher ed, maybe the experience should be different. If you insist on getting the answer, you're an adult, what's best for your learning journey, and maybe we should give that to you instead of being really strict about kind of being Socratic, et cetera. So we have been having a lot of conversations about how the experience adapts to to, either if we know your age or based on the content that you're working in. If you're working in like AP calculus, it could behave differently than if you're working in algebra 1, et cetera. So it is something we're thinking about. And we do kind of, just from the point about the journey between high school and higher ed, we are hoping and thinking about Khanmigo as your kind of tutor for life, if possible. And it's there always to kind of help you, and it understands your learning journey over many, many, many years. So that's something we're thinking about. Of course, it's very early days because this is Khanmigo's first year on the market, but I think that's our hope over time. There's another few questions. CJ, is there now, or is there soon likely to be any mechanisms for teachers to create their own exercises? Khanmigo seems like an excellent tool for operating within the network of course content, but I know that sometimes I have to hop around between different courses to find the exercises that most closely match our curriculum, and sometimes there isn't one. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we haven't been thinking about it as much of like creating exercises, like creating, multiple choice, et cetera. Although we have been talking about leveraging AI, our AI technology in our course creation CMS, where our content creators go in to create content. And it wouldn't be that high of a lift, I think, to provide those tools to teachers. So it's something we've actually talked about many times, not even in the context of just, AI, but even before AI, even before LLMs, we've talked about, do we expose our course creation tools and our content creation tools to teachers? And I think it's just an ongoing conversation we'll have. It's not in the immediate roadmap, but it is a possibility. Nick asks, or oh, this is just a fault from before. So Nick, let me know if I didn't or did answer your question. Oh, okay. Is Khan looking into the higher ed space, or separately a technical space? Can you say more what you mean about technical space? Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, so Khanmigo does already work on all of our course content, including our Python, newly launched Python course, all of our previous CS courses, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, et cetera. So that is something that, we wanted to work, and it works, incredibly well in coding, mainly because one thing that's a challenge for AI with regards to some of the tutoring issues that we're running into is there's not a ton of data out there that it's trained on different tutoring conversations, but it is trained on so much, professionally built code on GitHub. So it's very, very good at coding, and I think works really well in getting tutored in our coding content on Khan Academy. Other questions?
And also see, maybe to next question, Khanmigo being something that, I mean, could start to be well, not to co-opt another product, but could be a co-pilot for people who are in certain jobs, and as they continuously upskill or have new assignments, that something like Khanmigo is there to help them, do job related tasks. So I think there's a lot of potential for y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I would say one challenge for us as an organization, I think most organizations, is really like, how do we make sure we're focused on like very specific areas? It can also be, the challenge is making it general enough to apply to all the scenarios, which then kind of dilutes what we're doing. And I do think that, the companies like Microsoft are building Copilot studios where you can create your own Copilots, provided a bunch of data, do some training. And so I could imagine also that there might be other companies who focus on tools like that, but we'll see where the space goes. I think there's a lot of unknowns, and this is just a very greenfield space right now.
Yeah. I think there was a follow-up from Nick, by the way.
Yeah, I think I read part of that. So yeah. Yeah, no, Nick, I mean, in terms of like moving kind of forwards and backwards in ways, throughout throughout like solving an algebra problem, there's so many different ways and so many different permutations for how someone might solve a problem. And our goal is to make it such that, just because you didn't distribute the way we expected, that isn't going to be wrong, right? And so in terms of framing that conversation, I don't think we'd penalize you. We would make sure that the AI understands that this is still part of the correct path. One of the things we're talking about doing, for instance, is pre-generating a number of different permutations, and then passing all of those, a number of those permutations to the AI, just so it kind of knows what acceptable paths will be. But that's not fully necessary. It often will do a good job of when students go off of an unexpected path. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we are talking about doing exactly what you just described in the last comment.
Love it. Well, Shawn, I really appreciate you being here. It means a lot that you took time out of your day and your offsite to hop into SequoiaCon. I've been watching since I saw the Khanmigo, drop whatever the video or website was. I was just like, man, this is huge. And I say good on you guys for for taking this on, and I wish you all the best. And I can't wait to see what you guys do in the next year ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, Ryan. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and your audience.
Definitely. All right. We'll be watching.
All right. Thanks so
Shawn,
much.
cheers.